Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Tanya and You, Chapter 7. We are taking this journey through the Tanya, which is a small book, but holds within it so much. Um, I came across, there's just recently this story with the great Rabbi Levi Yitzchak of Barditchev, who was a contemporary to the Alter Rebbe, the author of the Tanya. And when he saw the Tanya for the first time, he commented, wow, the Alter Rebbe was able to put so much in such a small book. A small book in size, but it's very large in content. So as we continue studying through the earlier chapters of the Tanya, what we're starting to uncover is the answer, perhaps, to Jewish guilt, right? We all have some Jewish guilt. If you don't have some Jewish guilt, you got to check what's wrong with you. We have this guilt, and the guilt comes from, where does it come from? Guilt perhaps comes from uh, perhaps a conscious or a subconscious feeling. Am I doing enough? Am I living up to my own expectations? I know the way I want to live, but am I living up to that? That's guilt, Jewish guilt. And what we're starting to uncover over here in the Tanya is this idea that we have two souls within us. There are two souls. And each of these souls are pulling us in a different direction. We spoke about the animal soul, the natural soul, and then we spoke about what we refer to as the godly soul. And we spent chapter 2, 3, 4, 5, really talking about the godly soul, how it functions. And last week in chapter 6, we went back to elaborating a little bit on the animalistic soul. See, the animalistic soul, just like an animal, doesn't really have any free choice, which means an animal does things that it feels good, self-preservation, self-centered. And if you ask an animal, tell me, why did you make this choice? Or you had two options. Why did you choose this over that? Right? If you're gonna speak to a lion in the wild and say, "Hey, why did you just tear up this gazelle?" And you say, "What do you mean? I'm hungry." Right? Well, you couldn't have made a different decision. Maybe you could have eaten some whatever, some grass. There's no choices, right? It's all instinct. This is what I need. This is what I'm going to do. An animal being a predator, there's nothing wrong with that, right? This is just being an animal. And we all have that little animal within us, that nefesh habahamis. It's the instinct, it's the drive of self-preservation. It's the drive of just to be as I am. That's what we refer to also as a natural soul, just to live. Not necessarily evil or negative or bad or sinful. Yes, sinful acts comes from being self-centered, from being selfish, from feeling self, from our own ego. But it doesn't have to be bad. It has to just be self-centered. That's our animalistic soul. And then we have the godly soul, which is thinking of God. It's a holy soul. And last week we started to discuss this idea of, we like to use the word transparent. That the holy soul, our godly soul, is the transparent soul. Transparent means you don't see me. I'm a piece of glass that's transparent. It's mission oriented. Godliness is being revealed. It's transparent. It's a godly soul. I'm just here to be the one to bring it into fruition. Right? I'm just the emissary. It's not me. It's about the idea. That's the godly soul. And in last week's chapter 6, we started introducing this idea of klippa. which klippa is a reference to the unholy. And the reason why it's unholy is because it's being covered. Godliness is being covered like a shell covering the fruit. And we said that truthfully, there are two categories within the klippa itself. There is klippa, which is completely unholy, and it can never be transformed, can never be lifted up, elevated. But then there is a second form of klippa. We call it the bright klippa, the klippas noiga, the klippa with a potential. And this is where chapter 7 opens up. It elaborates on this second category of klippa, the klippas noiga. And the gist of the chapter of chapter 7 is that this category is either holy or unholy. It depends what you want to make of it. You know, when I was in I think it was going into 5th grade, our teacher opened the opening speech. You know, the day one, we're just meeting our teacher. It's a new classroom. It's a little bit of a new setting. Everyone's, you know, all ready for the new year. And he gives us this whole like pep talk about how this year is going to go. And he says this whole analogy, perhaps you've heard it before, of the butterfly, where this child comes to the wise man and holds a butterfly in his hand and says, "Is the butterfly alive or dead?" And the trick was that the child was going to, if he would say dead, he would have opened his hands, it's alive. And if he would say it's alive, he would have, you know, slowly crushed the butterfly and show that it's dead. So he's going to stump this wise man. Comes to the wise man and he says, "Is this butterfly alive or dead?" And he answers, "It's what you want it to be. It's up to you. It's in your hands." So this category of klippas noiga is what you want it to be. There's no status quo. It's either good or bad. Either not good or bad. Either it's holy or unholy. Either it's godly or ungodly. Right? So for example, if we take bacon, is that holy or unholy? We'll call it unholy. It's right. If you take Shabbat candles, holy, right? It's a mitzvah. Taking candles, you bring light into the world. It's a beautiful mitzvah. What if you take candles that are lit for idol worship? Okay, unholy. What about just regular candles? You go to the store, you buy a candle. Is that holy or unholy? Well, I don't know. Right? It's the same object, the same candle, the same wax, the same wick, the same company, the exact same candle. It depends what you want it to be. If you light it on a Friday evening for Shabbat, wow, it's a holy candle. If you use it for something sinful, for idol worship, the same candle now is unholy, extremely unholy. This is really what the Tanya in chapter 7 really discusses. So he goes through the animalistic tendencies and natures, and he opens it. I just want to mention just one interesting thing about the opening of the chapter 7. He compares the animalistic soul of the human being, and he also lists the soul of actual animals, but he differentiates between kosher animals and unkosher animals. He says the souls of animals and birds and fish, which are kosher, which are mutar, which are permissible to eat. He also talks about the souls or the energy of the inanimate things and the plants and vegetation, which are permissible to eat. And the energy that goes into our thought, speech, and action when we are involved in mundane, in the mundane, right? So when we're expressing ourselves in a mundane act. So in all of these above categories, when we are doing this for self, for something unholy, then it's klipa. It's unholy. But when we're doing it for godly reasons, then it's godly. In other words, like this, talking about guilt. If we look at our day and we start to analyze what we do every moment, don't get depressed. But how much of our day would we say is godly, is holy, right? So perhaps we spend time studying Torah. We come to a Thursday morning Tanya class. Okay, check out, holy. We spend some time in prayer, holy. We spend some time in other mitzvahs that we do, holy. We're helping our friends. We're visiting our neighbors. We're visiting the sick. We're giving some charity. Other mitzvahs, okay, holy, checked off. But then there's the rest of the day. Now, I hope that we're not being very sinful throughout the day, right? We are good people living good lives. We're not being sinful per se. But what are we doing the rest of the day? We are, by the way, sleeping is a big one. I don't mean day overnight, but throughout our lifetime, I forgot the number, is it 30, 40% or 20% of our life is sleeping, right? It's a lot of hours of sleep. And there's eating, and then there's resting, and then there's sitting around doing nothing, and there's reading a book, there's watching the news, there's going shopping, there's going to work, obviously many hours of doing that. There's so many things that we're doing that don't fall into any of these two categories, right? It's not holy and it's not seemingly sinful, evil, negative. And that is where the guilt comes in. And that is, well, what am I doing with all this time? So the Tanya says that thought, speech, and action in the mundane, in yanei olam hazeh, in just material pursuits, which is fine. But that energy that goes into that status quo by default is unholy. Why is it unholy? Because it lacks that transparency of godliness. Is godliness revealed in this act or not? That's the question. And if it isn't, because it's just, as we say, parav, it's just mundane, it's ultimately, it's for me, because I'm enjoying it, because it feels good for me. So that is unholy. And that's why we're guilty. However, because it's mundane, I am able to elevate it. It's the klipa, which is noga. It's the bright klipa, which means it's klipa as is. However, there is some brightness, there's some shine, because it can be elevated when I do use it, l'shem shemayim, when I use it out in order to serve God. And he gives over here actually two interesting examples. The interesting examples is he gives the example of eating meat and telling jokes, comedy. That's the two examples that the Tanya brings. And the reason why he brings it is because the Talmud really brings it. He talks about someone who eats fat meat, someone who eats marbled meat and fragrant wine, which, as we say, it's parav, it's mundane, but seemingly it's a materialistic pursuit. It tastes good, right? Someone who's very much involved in their food, usually, or perhaps, is because we're thinking about self. We're thinking about God. Just give me a tuna sandwich, right? Just give me something. If I'm eating just to survive, just to have the energy, so give me whatever it is. It makes no difference. There was once a chassid, Rabbi Mendel Futafas, one of my favorite stories with him. He was an old-time chassid from Russia, was involved in the Jewish underground. I mean, he was literally giving up his life for Judaism, a real servant of God. In his elderly years, he had a grandson who was with him, kind of helping him out. So his grandson was either he was staying with his grandson's house, or his grandson was in his house, and they came home from synagogue one morning, and they go into the kitchen, they're eating breakfast. So Reb Mendel takes out some loaf of bread. He takes out 2 slices of bread. He has some butter. He spreads some butter on his bread. He washes his hands. He makes some motzi. He sits down and he's eating. That's his breakfast. Okay, great. His grandson, on the other hand, is busy at work. He is busy cutting and chopping and toasting and this and that, his bagel and his salad and his cheese and his this and his that. A half hour, he's working on his breakfast. So the Mendel tells his grandson, it seems like that I am much more of a Baal Taiva, which means I am someone who's more indulgent in my food than you are. He looks at him and says, what do you mean? Look what I'm preparing for myself. My lavish breakfast. You're just fine with something very simple. He's like, no. For me, I'm so hungry and I can't hold myself back. I just have to eat the first thing I'm able to get. Oh, some simple bread and butter. For you have patience. You're able to hold yourself back from just indulging in the food, and you can prepare your food. Obviously, he was joking with him, but the point that you're trying to make was that food is food. If you're eating food just because you have to have some energy, eat whatever it is, right? Don't get so involved in the food, right? Good, fatty, juicy meat, fragrant wine. I mean, what do you need this for, right? You can live without it. So the Talmud says, does that mean we should never have good food? Does that mean we should never enjoy our food? Right? Just basic, simple menu. So the Talmud says it depends what the motive is. You could take the same meat, same piece of steak, but are you doing it because you enjoy it? It's wow, look at this piece of steak. I'm so happy. It's so great. Then that may be problematic. But if I'm doing it like the Talmud says, in order to broaden my mind, in order to open my mind, and now I can sit down. I just had a good breakfast. I had a good meal. Now I can sit and study Torah. My mind is open. My mind is fresh because I had that good meal, because I had that good wine. Oh, you're taking the same candles, but you're elevating it. Right? And the other example he uses about comedy. It says that the great Rava would begin his Talmud class. Today rabbis always begin with a joke, right? Because you got to catch their attention. You start with a joke. Rava, the great sage Rava in the Talmud, did the same thing. He started his class. He would always say a milsa de betuchusa, a little light, joke, a little piece of comedy. Why? The Talmud says because he felt that when the rabbis would sit there and they would laugh, it would help them with their studies, or like break the ice a little bit, get them involved, right? So it's not just because comedy is funny and it feels good and we're just doing it to enjoy ourselves. That's unholy. It's because it helps us serve God. It becomes transparent, it becomes holy. So it's that one act. It's like, take a knife. What is a knife? Is it good or bad? A knife is just a knife. It depends what you use it for. If I use it to stab someone, God forbid, it's a terrible thing. If I use it to use it as in surgery to save someone's life, it's a good thing. If I use it in my kitchen to prepare a good meal, it's a good thing, right? It really depends on how we use it out. So this is all in the category of klipas noiga, the bright klipa, which has the ability, it's klipa, it's unholy as is, because status quo is self, status quo is unholy. However, we have the ability to use it out for good, to transform it, to elevate it, to bring it into the realms of holiness. So that is this category. At the end of the chapter, it moves back to the first category of the completely unholy klipa. And these are food, like we started off, like ham, like bacon, food which is forbidden to eat, or any act which is completely sinful. The energy in this act or in this item is completely bound within the forces of klipa, of unholiness, and they can never be transformed. I shouldn't say never. They generally cannot be transformed. In other words, like this: everything, every item, plant, vegetation, animal world, they all have a certain energy, a soul. And this is what gives its vitality. And certain things receive their vitality from the world of klipa, not just klipas noiga, the bright klipa, but the complete, forces of klipa. And if it is the first category of klipa, it can never be transformed. In other words, you have a thief comes into your house, a murderer, and you get to speak to them face to face. They're putting a gun to your head. Give me your money or your life. But they do it with a smile. They're very charismatic. And they seem like a nice guy. And now you're asking court to say, tell me, this thief, is he good or bad? This act that the thief did, I should say, is it good or bad? Holy or unholy? What are you going to say? You know what? He was a good guy. I like him. I connected well with him. No. The act of thievery is an act of klipa. It's unholy. Just because it seems perhaps good, it felt good, it cannot be transformed. It's thievery. It's bad. It's negative. It's unholy. There are certain things that no matter what you do with it, it's unholy. So the example would be if someone would be eating like I said, bacon and eggs for breakfast. And then I say, well, thank God, now I have the energy to study Tanya. So is that being elevated? The energy of that meal that was unkosher, is that being elevated? The answer is no, because we don't have the tools to elevate the klipa. If it's complete klipa, it's not the klipas noiga, it's not the bright klipa. If it's complete klipa, we don't have the energy for that. We don't have the tools for that, right? And interestingly, the Tanya talks about the Hebrew words for permitted and prohibited. I don't know what the English etymology of these words are, but in Hebrew, we use the words asur and mutar. Asur means prohibited, not allowed. Mutar means permitted, permissible. In Hebrew, there's another meaning to these same words. The word asur also means tied up, locked, knotted up. In fact, for those of us who say the morning blessings, one of the morning blessings that we say is matir asurim, the one who unties the ones who are bound. Like, so we have in that one blessing, we have the word asur, bound up, tied up, and matir or mutar means to untie, to release. So when we say something is mutar, is permissible, what that means is that it isn't tied up in the negative forces, in klipa. It's the klipas noiga. It's the bright klipa that is untied, which means through using this for a positive act, a godly act, we're able to untie it from the klipa and elevate it to holiness, to kedusha. Asur, which means tied up, prohibited, means that it is tied up, locked into the forces of negativity, of klipa, and they can never be elevated. The only way to elevate something, which is klipa, is retroactive. In other words, like this. If I say, I'm going to sit down to breakfast, or I'm going to go do something, a sinful act, but I'm later going to use it out for holiness, we say, no, can't do it. It's not going to work. Retroactive, if it was already done. And now I don't just move on and say, I did it already. Now, great. Now I can use it use that energy for something good. No. But if I have complete remorse and complete regret, and I do a intense teshuvah, repentance, and the way that Tanya describes it, it's a repentance out of great love to God. And the feeling that I have is, how was I able to be so far from God? I hit rock bottom. How was I able to be so distant from God that I was able to sin? I was able to do an act that is involved in the negative forces, in the klippa forces. How far was I from God? How ungodly was I at that moment? And these thoughts, instead of bringing you into a depression, they tell you, okay, now become close. Now be near to God, be close to God, be godly. In other words, what's happening here? Because I was far from God, that feeling of emptiness, of distance from God, that feeling is a catalyst. That feeling is a stepping stool. That feeling gives me that push to come close to God. In other words, that sinful act now is part of my journey to godliness. So now the Tanya says that is able to elevate that act into something positive because I'm using it to come closer to God. So it doesn't work with any repentance, right? If I just repent and say, I did so many sins this year, God, I have regrets, I won't do it again. Okay, that's one type of, elementary level of teshuvah. But this intense teshuvah, where the thought process is that the sin brought me closer to God, because I felt so far, therefore I'm returning. That type of teshuvah is able to elevate my sins as well. Just to end with an interesting story, and I forget the name of the person, but the story comes with a name. The person who was like a CFO, a very successful in some very successful business, an executive of the business, and they made a terrible mistake. They miscalculated something. They didn't think something through properly. They made a decision that costed the business $1 million. And it was a decision he could have avoided if he would have done more research or thought it through properly, was a little bit more responsible. He could have avoided this decision that costed the business $1 million. This man was devastated. He had a successful career up until this point, and that's it. He was ready to pack his bags. He knew that that's it. He's being fired. He's being laid off. There's no way they're going to keep him now. And then he gets a call from his superior. The CEO calls him into his office. He said, okay, this is it. This is my end. He's almost already cleaning up his office, packing his bags. That's it. I lost my job. And it's justified. I made a terrible, terrible mistake. And he sits down in the CEO's office and he says, I would like to promote you. What? Yeah, I'd like to promote you. For what? Well, you made this terrible mistake. Yeah, I think you realized the mistake. Now I want to promote you. What are you talking about? You're not firing me? He says, firing you? I just spent $1 million on you. I should fire you? I just spent $1 million on your education, on your experience. Now I should fire you? You're going to be the best employee now, knowing that your mistakes could cost the business $1 million, and now you need so much more careful. In other words, we all make mistakes. We all have that sinful moments. When I say sinful in the language of the Tanya, it doesn't mean you're, God forbid, a murderer. Sinful means we do acts which are unholy, sometimes in the realm of klippa, where it's something that we cannot elevate. It's not the mundane, right? Once in a while, we fall. And regularly, just going through the regular path of life, that's it. You can't do anything. That negative energy is asur, it's stuck, it's tied up. However, when we take that and say, you know what? Because I was so far, I feel so empty, I feel so terrible, I'm losing my job, I'm ready to pack up. And then I say, you know what? Now I have more experience. Now I could come even closer to God. I can use this as part of my journey to return to God. Oh, now I'm able to elevate even that category of klippa. So I'll leave you with that. A little overview of chapter 7. There's obviously so much more in the chapter that we were not able to touch upon. So as always, I highly encourage you to read the chapter inside, chapter 7 from Tanya. I'm using the practical Tanya over here. There's so many beautiful ideas. Next week or next class, we'll continue with chapter 8. Thank you.